Item 49, if my circles are correct.
Yes, Mr. President. Both 49 and 50 are agreements with the same vendor, although they're different change orders, but they're for the same exact reason. I'm wondering why we've got two separate agreements for the same action.
Well, one of them, the vendor did all the work, but we worked with them on two agreements, and one of the agreements was to move the two relocatable classrooms to Lowell, and the other one had to do with the Franklin Lunch Shelter, from which we removed the two relocatables that we were moving to Lowell, and we had an agreement on each side.
Okay.
That's not really the best explanation I can give you, but because I asked the same question when it came through.
Mr. Stallings, don't I recall that you moved two portables to Lowell, not one?
No, it's two.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's two portable classrooms. And so with access to our backup on this, I could give you a little bit better answer, but I believe one had to do with one side and one had to do with the other side.
That's pretty good. Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. President, I do have just one more comment. Under gifts, if we're going to go ahead and approve the consent agenda, I just wanted to comment that in looking at the various gifts that came to the district, they totaled to about $32,000, and that's, I think, very complimentary of all the various schools and businesses that have donated to the district and for the various causes. And I just wanted to say thank you to all those good people.
Very good. Business Department report.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. President, I have three items I'd like to pull and discuss real quickly. Numbers 1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3.
Yes, sir.
I can remember that.
Item number 1 is a resolution of the Board of Education of the Long Beach Unified School District to establish a special reserve fund for other than capital outlay projects. What are we establishing this reserve for?
This is a reserve that exists in many of the districts and that we feel would be a benefit to this district. A special reserve is simply a place that the board can, and it takes board action to do it, place money outside of the general fund and use for usually one-time expenses. We have a special reserve in the district, and it's the same exact idea, except the special reserve can only be used for capital outlay projects. If you're doing a project that was a one-time expense and you wanted to, fund a project for 3 to 5 years out of a particular funding source, and it was program-related or not just simply capital facilities, you would need this type of reserve to do it. Noticing that we didn't have that type of reserve, I recommended this just because it gives us more options as a district on how we want to budget and fund for certain expenses and track them so that when you get the reports, it's clearly in a separate fund. Probably one of the best examples is, and that's the following reserve, is a special reserve for post-employment benefits. This one's particularly for that purpose, and as you know, we have identified in the reserve over $6 million for post-employment retirement benefits. And this reserve would only be used for that purpose while we look at other options, trusts and other vehicles that we might want to use. But this would establish it and show it to anybody that looks at this, and typically we get looked at by Standard & Poor's and Moody's as our outstanding bonds are out there. And they ask us, have you funded that post-employment benefit obligation? And we can show this as a funding for that. Fund 17, on the other hand, is for any other reason other than capital facilities.
So on number 2, with the post-employment benefits, isn't there a normal process for funding post-employment benefits that all school districts would have, like through STRS or
no,
PERS?
The issue with post-employment benefits that we're trying to deal with is that there's a lot of investigation, and it's really not until next year that we need to have a plan in place for funding those. But it's my understanding that if you want to do it with the trust, you have to have it a year ahead of that. We're still investigating that, and we're not yet convinced that that's the way to go. And we're far from recommending the board if we should go with the trust or not. But post-employment benefits need to be funded in a fund other than the general fund, and there are options to do that. This is one option, which still leaves the other options open. Where we put it in the trust, you cannot take it back out, so the other options are then closed off. So until we get to the board and discuss it with a recommendation on what option we think serves the district the best, this is an option that still leaves all other options open, but still can show auditing and other entities that we do have funded post-employment benefits in a 30-year plan to fund the actuarial study.
I'm not understanding why this needs to be, is this something we do every year?
No, and in fact, in years gone by, districts did not have to account for the cost of post-employment benefits or come up with a plan to fund them. Mm-hmm. This is something that the state of California has pushed, and the national government has pushed also with their government accounting standard board's regulations. And so now, by next year, we have to come up with a plan. We've had an actuarial study done. We've had them do a 30-year proration of that funding need, and we've looked at that and set aside one of the 30 years. And now we need a place to put it outside the general fund. And so this is the only place we can put it that still leaves all the other options open, including potentially funding a trust at some point in the future.
And by a trust, you mean a health benefits trust?
Right. It would be a post-employment health benefits trust. And maybe we can agendize that sometime and talk about it, but we still have more research to do. There are advocates for that and people advocating against that for a lot of reasons, one of which is that as the health plans change in the state, and we're hearing the governor propose certain plans, our funding obligations might change to the extent that, well, for example, if the state decided to have state-covered medical costs completely, the district cost could well change a lot. Mm-hmm. And then if we were in a trust, we'd be stuck in it. So the people against trust will tell you that. And they also say since retirees are only guaranteed what current employees get, if you change what you give current employees, then that might change the actuarial setting. It certainly would, depending on what plans you're in. So that's the arguments against. The arguments for are that you might get better return on your investment values because trusts will in some cases have different guidelines on investments than, say, a district fund, where we have to follow more strict guidelines.
So this would be a prerequisite to creating a trust. And then but if we moved past this point and created a trust, then the horse would be out of the barn and there's no way to get that money back. But what about with this? Is there a way to,
this money
we can move that back to the general fund later if we decided to?
Yeah, this money can be, any school fund, you can transfer this money right back in the general fund or into a trust or into the self-insured fund, which is another option that districts look at, but this keeps it discrete, segregated from any other funding of current employees' health benefits, and so we think this is the easiest way to account for it. Show those that want to see we funded it that it is funded and still leave every option open.
Kim, is this the GASB 45 requirement?
Exactly.
Or it is the GASB 45
exactly.
requirement? Okay.
Call for a vote?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Which were you?
I'm sorry,
voting?
1, 2, and 3.
Oh.
And the entire, we need to do the entire report.
And the entire report.
You want to read a vote just for the
Yes,
record?
may I have a motion for the entire report?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.